Hello and welcome back to Spirits IQ. Today we'll be talking about WhistlePig The Boss Hog collection, a series of annual limited edition releases. The first one was released in 2013. The history of WhistlePig itself goes back to 2007, when the purchase took place in Vermont of an old farm, and they broke ground on the distillery. At first, they were bottling whiskey, sourced whiskey, and the first expression did not come out until 2015. It was a 10-year-old rye whiskey. And the goal was to create an ultra premium rye whiskey at a time when rye whiskey did not necessarily command high prices. I mean, some notable expressions aside, particularly Pappy Rye and others. But generally speaking, rye whiskey did not command high prices. Okay, going back to the WhistlePig The Boss Hog collection itself. It started in 2013 and there has been 10 releases to date, with the release number 11 coming out later in 2024. The 10 releases does not mean there's only been 10 bottles released. The team at WhistlePig is very creative and each release is different. Sometimes it is a single bottle and sometimes it's not. There could be another format and the packaging is different, and I'm going to cover all of those details in this review. As a treat to you today, I will show you every single bottle in every single format that's been released except for the first one. The first one, or once, there is more than one in the Boss Hog 1 edition. They are quite difficult to obtain, very expensive, particularly in good condition at this point. Very, very difficult to find them. So with that, buckle your seatbelts, cheers, kampai, lahaim, and slanjiva. Throughout this video, I'm only going to mention the age if it is printed on the label. Speaking of Boss Hog 1, you will notice that the name of the series, The Boss Hog, is on the label. It does not indicate the first edition, it just says The Boss Hog. It's been a topic of many discussions. I participated in myself personally. I've done a lot of research on as to how many different variations are within the Boss Hog 1 edition. Most people are familiar with Spice Dancer, and McDonald is another name many people are familiar with. But there are in fact 4 different series names within Boss Hog 1 from a collector perspective. The bottle looks the same, the label looks the same, but the difference is in the series name. There is a series name written on the label, handwritten on the label, and there are 4 different variations. The Spice Dancer, which is the most common in the marketplace, although in itself is very difficult to find nowadays. The other one is called McDonald. The third one is Boss Hog, the namesake of the entire collection, the Boss Hog. And the fourth one, perhaps the most difficult to find in the marketplace today, it's called First Step. Moving on to Boss Hog number 2, The Spirit of Mortimer, released in 2014, comprised of 50 barrels, 15-year-old. There's a very important difference between the first edition and the second, and that is the introduction of a bespoke pewter stopper. You will see one in each subsequent edition. Now, another change is the absence of an neck tag. The edition number 1 had a neck tag, but did not have a pewter stopper. And the second one does have a pewter stopper, but there is no neck tag. So in effect, one replaced the other. This edition was dedicated to one of the 2 celebrity pigs on the farm, Mortimer. The other one was Mauve. Remember that name, it will come up again once we get to edition number 5. Edition number 3, The Independent, released in 2016, comprised of only 30 barrels, 14-year-old whiskey finished in hogsheads. There is another difference in format with this edition, and that is the reintroduction of the neck tag. So going back to the first one, there was no pewter stopper, but there was a neck tag. The second one had a pewter stopper, but there was no neck tag. And in this edition, number 3, they both present. Another very important change to note is that starting with this edition, WhistlePig started putting the volume number on the label. The first one and the second one just said the Boss Hog, but did not indicate the volume number. So starting with the number 3, you'll see volume number right on the label. Edition number 4, the Black Prince, released in 2017, 14-year-old and finished in Armagnac barrels. This edition features once again bespoke stopper as well as a neck tag, and as I mentioned, starting with volume number 3, the volume number is now permanently on the label going forward. This edition features 2 variations. This is the original one, the full body figure on the stopper, and notice how narrow the base is. It actually presented some challenges in the shipping process due to high temperatures and soft nature of pewter. You will notice on the marketplace the figure tilting on sides because of it. So initially this is the initial format for this pewter, and it was replaced later on with a different pewter, kind of like a half body figure. The initial one came to known as a skinny version, and while both of them are highly collectible, this commands a higher price in the marketplace. Volume number 5, The Spirit of Mauve, released in 2018, 13-year-old and finished in Calvados barrels. The Spirit of Mauve, remember that name from edition number 2 when we talked about Mortimer? So Mauve was the second celebrity pig on the farm, and this edition is dedicated to her. It is shaped in the form of coffin, the boxes. Now, speaking of the box, it's a very important change in the format in this collection. This is the first edition that is actually boxed, and this first box is actually sealed. Each subsequent release comes in a box that is not sealed. Volume number 6 comes in a gorgeous box, gift box with closures on the side. A couple of things to cover in this edition. First, the basics, released in 2019, comprised of 90 barrels and finished in Umishu barrels. It is called the Samurai Scientist. There is 2 different versions in this particular release. This is the first one. Notice how number 6 is in Japanese, and the second one is featuring the same pewter stopper, the same shape, but all in black. This is known as katakana edition. You notice that in addition to number 6 being in Japanese, the Boss Hog name is also in Japanese as well. This is the rarer of the 2, and while both of them are very valuable, this is more valuable in the marketplace. A few other little things to mention here is the set came with an origami paper pig in the package, and also the katakana edition version could have been authenticated. So you would apply for it with WhistlePig, and would be issued a certificate of authenticity that looks like this. It's in English and Japanese, signed by Peter Lynch, who was the master blender at WhistlePig at the time. Edition number 7, a couple of things to mention here as well. First, the basics, released in 2020, 17-year-old, featuring a double finish. The name of this release is Magellan's Atlantic. It's a very important theme for the entire collection because it makes its appearance 3 times. This is the first time, and it is dedicated to the first known circumnavigation of the world by the Magellan's crew. And this is to commemorate Magellan, who took his crew to Philippines, where he met his fate at the hands of the local warrior LapuLapu, to whom the next edition, number 8, is dedicated, but one edition at a time. So this is number 7, the Magellan's Atlantic. So this is the regular 750 milliliter format, and the reason I mentioned that is WhistlePig also released a very limited, only 40 bottles produced, released in Europe, 3-liter format. Pretty gigantic bottle, I should say. I'm gonna show them side by side for comparison purposes, so you can see how big this one is. So this one came by itself, no box, no neck tag of any kind. If you recall, neck tag was produced for edition number 1, number 3, and number 4, and those are the only 3 editions that had a neck tag. Every other bottle did not, and bottle number 1, bottle number 2 were not boxed either. And starting with edition number 5, all bottles have been bottled except for this 3-liter format. It's not boxed and there is no neck tag. And this is the box the 750 milliliter bottle came in. Volume number 8, LapuLapu specific, released in 2021, featuring a double finish in Philippine rum barrels. It came in beautiful gift box. This is a continuation of the theme started in previous volume number 7, dedicated to first known circumnavigation of the world. So the 7 was dedicated to Magellan, this is dedicated to LapuLapu, and there'll be another special release on the same theme as well, and that's coming up later on. Boss Hog number 9, there is a lot to cover with this edition. First, the basics. It was released in 2022, featuring a double barrel finish. Interestingly, there was a special feature on the label that would allow you to authenticate the particular bottle that you purchased. Okay, this edition was dedicated to 9 muses according to Greek mythology, and as such, the creative team at WhistlePig released 9 different pewters in this release, and if you're a true diehard collector, you would buy 9 different bottles of release number 9. Yes, you would want all 9 pewter stoppers in your collection. I'm gonna go through them next. And the first muse is Calliope, the oldest of the 9 sisters, the oldest muse, the muse of eloquence and epic poetry. You will notice that the name of the muse is engraved at the base of the pewter, and that is true for all 9 of them. The second muse is Cleo, the muse of history. Muse number 3, Erato, the muse of romantic poetry. Muse number 4, Euterpe, the muse of lyric poetry. Muse number 5, Melpomene, the muse of tragedy. Fewer of Melpomene has been produced, and therefore she is the rarest pewter you'll find in the marketplace. Muse number 6, Polyhymnia, the muse of sacred poetry. Muse number 7, Terpsichore, the muse of music and dancing. Muse number 8, Thalia, the muse of comedy and idyllic poetry. And finally, the youngest of the 9 muses, Urania, the muse of astronomy. They all came in the same gorgeous white gift box with the closing on the side. So the difference truly is the pewter stopper. Next up is the latest thus far release, number 10, called The Commandments. Volume 10, The Commandments, the 10 Commandments. The most grandiose packaging to date. The little magnet opens up the box and reveals the gorgeous bottle inside for The Commandments. Volume number 10. Released in 2023, aged in American oak and featuring a complex double barrel finish. And now the special release after The Commandments was released, which is the last to date annual release. WhistlePig came out with Boss Hog 7/8 special release, and they called it the one that made it around the world. This is a continuation of the theme started in Boss Hog number 7, which, as you recall, was the Magellan's Atlantic, and then continue on with the number 8, LapuLapu Pacific. So this special release is to commemorate a single ship that actually completed the circumnavigation of the world and came back to domestic shores. It comes with the gift box that is very, very similar to number 8 release, except for the language about the barrels this particular whiskey was finished in. There are some changes in this special release. As you can see, the bottle itself does not feature a bespoke pewter stopper, but with this bottle came this very special little set. And speaking of pewter stoppers, it does contain 2 of them. So you'll notice that this is exactly the same as number 8, with one difference: the sword is actually colored red. And the second stopper shows the figure of Magellan from number 7, but it's beheaded, and the head lies right beside it at the base of the pewter, and the neck is also colored red. Kind of gives you an idea of the outcome of the battle between Magellan and LapuLapu. I do want to mention another expression out there. It is by WhistlePig, with a similar looking label and similar sounding name. It's called the Boss Hog with 2 G's. So while it is a genuine WhistlePig expression and has a value in its own right, it does not belong to this collection. It is not part of this collection. You see a picture of it on the screen now. It is a single barrel release that was bottled exclusively for Upstate Speakeasy, as the sticker on the bottle indicates. The Boss Hog appears to be a reference to a character from an American TV series called The Duke of Hazzard, where the main character was dressed in white, holding a cigar. You'll see that in the middle of the label. So this kind of reminds you of the Boss Hog first edition. So it's not part of this collection. So that's it for now. Very much looking forward to the next annual release, number 11. It's coming out later this year, 2024. WhistlePig already came out with a name for it. It's going to be called the Juggernaut. We'll see what that's about. And until then, thank you for watching.